A common NCAA wrestling debate that is brought up every season is what is the toughest weight class? Year over year, week over week, second over second, people mention this topic. It's especially hard in a sport like wrestling where there is so much talent or lack of talent, that the best guys in the weight class either lose or look very vulnerable at times. Overall though, what classifies as the hardest weight class? Some people say it's the depth, some people have the final boss theory where there is one wrestler that is so good, it makes the entire weight class that much better, which in my opinion is sort of true. For this video though, we will be looking at the depth. To an extent, when we all look at the chips that have fallen in Kansas City, people will look back at the 8 All-Americans and everyone will go, wow, how is this a real bracket? An all-star bracket, if you will, where former, current, and future All-Americans and national champions will go to battle. I will primarily be highlighting one weight class, and I think you can all take a guess at what it is. But if you have your own opinion or guess, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I will also be highlighting some honorable mentions before we get to the top dog of weight classes, so be sure to stick around for a while. Now with all that said, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's jump into it. Now to start, I think every D1 NCAA weight class is tough and extremely fun to watch when it all comes together at NCAAs. For example, I think you could argue 125 is extremely tough just based on the variance and the fact that anyone in the top 20 could become a national champ this season. However, from a pure accolade standpoint, there is 0 returning NCAA champs in the weight, and volatility doesn't always equal toughness in wrestling. A weight class that does have a lot of star power returning, however, is 133. Yes, I do believe the 133 weight class does deserve at least an honorable mention in this video, especially since a lot of people probably thought it was going to be the Vito Arujau and Dayton Fix show this season. Vito is a returning national champ, and Fix has made several national finals at this point, still failing to take home gold. However, very early into the season, a new top dog would emerge in Ryan Crookham of Lehigh. Crookham was a top star recruit, and after taking out the returning national champ very early in the season, people knew this weight class was heating up. With that said, the only reason this weight class is only in the honorable mention list is because it's basically those 3 competitors with still a lot of high-level wrestlers below them. Some of those wrestlers include Minnesota transfer now at Penn State Aaron Nagao, who is a returning All-American but has dropped some Big Ten matches, including a loss to Crookham this season. Kyle Rainey is another returning All-American for NC State, and Dylan Ragusin, who hasn't reached a podium yet but is always knocking off some great wrestlers for Michigan. There's a lot of other great wrestlers too that are just young, like Nasir Bailey for Little Rock, Jacob Van D for Nebraska, and plenty others to mention. In my honest opinion, I think this is a prime example weight class where the seeds are going to be all sorts of messed up after the Big Ten tournament, with several of the best guys dropping weird matches early before storming back in the consies. It really reminds me of last year's 125 Big Ten weight class, where those seeds were all sorts of jacked up at nationals, with returning All-Americans having very high seeds. But to be honest, that's all part of the fun, so I'm here for it. To shout out our bigger wrestlers at 197, which is a weight that I think is a ball of excitement, starting with the final boss, Aaron Brooks of Penn State. But below him is a ton of hardware at 197, starting with Trent Hidlay from NC State, who is a one-time finalist, losing to Brooks back in 2021 at 184. Trent has also reached a podium 2 other times, looking to make this the 4th time of his career. I think Trent is the current pick for the runner-up spot at the weight, but the Big 12 competitors will probably have something else to say about that. Tanner Sloan of South Dakota State is the returning runner-up at the weight, and most recently he pinned Rocky Elam of Missouri during their duel and beat the 2022 third place finisher at the weight, Stephen Buchanan of Oklahoma. I really think those 3 could finish in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place spot, and I would even argue one of them could slip in the finals, but the Big 12s is really going to determine their seeding, and ultimately you just want to be on the opposite side of Aaron Brooks. The same is true for the biggest conference in wrestling, the EIWA at 197. Former Penn State wrestler now at Lehigh is Michael Beard, who's putting together another great season. His only loss this season is to Trent Hidlay, which was a major decision loss, but that was all the way back in the beginning of the year. He also beat the other threats at the weight class throughout the season by large margin, like Lou Duprez for Binghamton and Cardenas of Cornell, who has also beat former All-American Rocky Elam this season. Last year at 197 was such a crazy time, especially leading up to nationals, and I think it's going to be very similar, with a lot of All-American hardware battling it out to take out Aaron Brooks in March. Then as we wrap up the honorable mentions, we have 174, which in my opinion has a lot, and I mean more national champ power than the actual toughest weight class we're going to be talking about. But after that, it kind of falls off, so very top heavy at 174. The top three at the weight are Carter Starocki going for his fourth national title this year. Man, isn't it crazy how many four-timers we have this year? And then next year we might even have another four-timer. Like, it's just nuts. But oh yeah, where was I? Shane Griffith, who is a recent bump up to the weight class, is another new schooler at Michigan, and he has made several national finals at this point with several All-American honors and a national championship honor, along with Mekhi Lewis of Virginia Tech, who has made the finals several times and won a title back in 2019. Now don't get me wrong, I think this is a fun group at 174, but I'm not really sure if Griffith, Lewis, or even the field can test Starocki in his hunt for his fourth title. Griffith lost at CKLV this season, but would eventually beat that champion DeVos later in the season. Lewis got majored by Starocki at the All-Star meet, so a lot of luster fell from this weight class very early. I honestly think it is more interesting to see if anyone in the field can make the finals over Griffith and Mekhi, but we'll just have to wait and see till March and see where the seeds fall. How crazy would it be if Griffith and Lewis were on the same side as Starocki and the bottom side was just totally a mess? Like, that'd be just wild, but I don't really think that will happen. Finally, we reached the toughest weight class, well, in my opinion, and that is 165, which I'm sure you all saw coming. I think this weight was just as tough last year too, even though Griffith bumped up to 174. I think 165 is just as tough, if not tougher. 197 was a very close second, but based on my rules, 165 is going to have a lot of returning All-Americans mathematically sitting in the stands for the All-American parade, and that's just how tough the bracket will be. For starters, there is the king of the weight class right now, Keegan O'Toole, Missouri, looking to claim his third national title, and so far he has beat a national champ in all of his finals appearances. This year could very much be the same with David Carr of Iowa State, looking to claim his second national title and first at the weight class. Last year, Carr beat O'Toole twice before O'Toole wrestled the match of his life in the national finals, defeating Carr in a pretty dominant fashion. The rematch of the season is happening this Sunday, by the way, so don't miss out on that. I would bet we'll see it again in the Big 12 finals as well, unless someone else in the Big 12 has different plans. That's right, we have Peyton Hall of West Virginia, a 2022 All-American who failed to reach the podium in 2023. Hall had some interesting losses early in the season, but since then he's looked really good, only losing to top-tier opponents, including a loss to Keegan O'Toole where he was winning heading into the third period. One of his big wins was pinning Michigan State 165 Caleb Fish, who got a win over several-time All-American Cam Amina Michigan, who has looked a little off this season, yes, but this wouldn't be the first time he's looked off during the regular season and then came alive in the postseason. Then I would be an idiot to forget to mention the two big dogs in the Big Ten, with returning All-American Caliendo of Iowa looking to help the Hawkeyes get another team trophy. But the real story is Mitchell Messenbrick of Penn State dominating his Big Ten schedule, and most of his schedule to be honest, majoring two returning All-Americans in Amin and Caliendo. Messenbrick is currently undefeated on the season, but he won't get a chance at multiple-time All-American Hamidi of Wisconsin until the Big Ten Finals probably. If Messenbrick wins Big Tens and O'Toole wins Big 12s taking out David Carr again, we could have some super interesting seeding that could cause some super tough placement in the toughest weight class. Primarily because the last guy I want to mention, Julian Ramirez. Ramirez actually got upset by Fish at last year's NCAAs. However, this year he knocked off returning runner-up David Carr at CKLV in the semifinals before losing to Oklahoma State Cowboy Olejnik in the CKLV finals. Man, this weight is just a different kind of crazy. Not to mention Hall also beat Olejnik during the Big 12 duel, so this weight class in the Big 10 and especially in the Big 12 is just must-watch TV. But where was I? Oh yeah, weird seeing, which is just the best part of the sport, isn't it? If Messenbrick wins Big Tens and all goes well for O'Toole and Ramirez at conferences, I could see a situation where David Carr is potentially on the same side as Keegan O'Toole at NCAAs, which would be insane, but I guess we'll find out the possibility of that after this weekend. Either way, I'm here for all of it, and I would even argue there's a guy I failed to mention at 165 that could slip into the top 8, which would be totally insane and totally crush some brackets, but that's wrestling, so let's strap in for the fun. Speaking of fun, if you agreed, disagreed, or just had a good time listening to me about this toughest weight class topic, I would love to hear about it in the comment section below, along with hitting those like and subscribe buttons while you're down there. Also, don't forget, if you live in the Northeast Ohio area, check out my buddy's new wrestling club, Elevate Wrestling Academy. And with all that said, take care, everybody.